You want to be considered a great major gift officer. The path to getting there is that you have an unquenchable desire to understand what your donors' passion and interests are, and why they have them. In this podcast, Richard and I discuss why knowing your donors' passion and interests and matching that up to all the things your organization does to change the world will set you apart as a major gift officer and inspire your donors to give transformational gifts. And stay with us to the end. We have a story that will blow you away and inspire you to be even more curious with your donors.
Welcome to the Nothing But Major Gifts podcast from Veritas Group, featuring Richard Perry and Jeff Schreifels. Twice a month, we bring you the latest and best thinking about major gift fundraising, so you can develop authentic relationships with your major donors. Here are your hosts, Richard and Jeff.
Hey, thank you for joining us on today's podcast. And Richard, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing great. And this topic we're going to cover, this is just like, I just love it, talking about passions and interests of donors.
It's one of our favorite, isn't it?
It is. It is. Well, it's the main driver, isn't it?
It is. We've probably, if we look back, Richard, at all the blog posts we've done over the years, this word, passion and interest of the donor, that whole thing, it must be number one, because we write about it all the time.
Well, we write about it all the time because it is the absolute key to success in major gift fundraising.
Yeah.
And we've seen that, and we can, and somebody might say, well, okay, come on, guys, you think it is, but do you have any proof? Well, we have story after story after story of the gifts coming from people going up when their passions and interests was truly served versus just giving money.
And, unfortunately, we've seen many, many nonprofits where their major gift programs are not built on understanding the passion and interests of donors. They're more about transactional gifts. The event gift that they get every year. These donors go to an event, they give a gift, or those like renewal gifts. We see many membership or arts organizations that are focused on just getting a renewal gift. If we can just get them to give that $5,000 every year.
Isn't that amazing? Like for instance, on that one, a client of ours out west had a donor that was giving $5,000 a year. And when we told the major gift officer, look, you've got to identify those passions and interests, and it'll make a tremendous difference. This was a very, very wealthy woman. And so they identified the passions and interests of that donor, and she gave $4 million.
Yeah.
$4 million cash.
I know.
Pledged another $8 million. And we've heard story after story of that kind of thing happening. So it's like, why do you stick with this whole thing? Like the only objective is to get the renewal gift, because that's actually a transactional, cash-oriented, gift-oriented thing versus like really helping the donor do what they want to do on the planet.
Well, to be frank or blunt, I think it's easier for the development team or the major gift team or major gift officer to just get that annual gift and not do the hard work of trying to understand the passion and interests of individual donors and matching it up with those programs. So they get the revenue, because they got that revenue goal, right? And so overall goal. And so that annual gift is helping them make that goal. And it's easier to do that.
Yeah. And you're right, Jeff. It is very hard to kind of get that whole transformational gift. It takes a lot of work, and it's very labor intensive. And serving a donor's passions and interests is very intensive too. So why not just do the annual thing, and why not just have the event or the membership?
Yeah.
The whole Giving Society thing, where if you give $10,000, you get these benefits. I agree. That's pretty easy maintenance.
It is easy. Compared to actually sitting down with donors and finding out what their passion and interests are. It still perplexes me though. We've done so much analysis of data, and I remember gosh, years and years ago, when you were showing me a donor file, a very large organization, and you were showing the donor value attrition that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
One year, their donors gave $8 million. The same donors the next year, like $4 million. So almost like half. They lost half of their value. And then you told me that, you told me this story that you were sitting in the conference room
mm-hmm.
with the whole organization, the major gift officers around the table, and you're looking at donor by donor, all the donors that gave in that year, and the next year, nothing. And one donor had given like $72,000 in 1 year.
Yep, I remember that
nothing.
Clearly.
And you said, well, tell me the story of this donor. What's happening? And no one could answer it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, which means that the whole, I remember that so clearly. It was about 786 donors that gave eight plus million in 1 year, and the same ones gave 4 million the next year. And it's like, well, someone says, well, that's just one gift that went away, one big gift that went away, or two big gifts. Like there's a $2 million. No, it's all of these $5,000 donors, $10,000, $15,000, and then that $72,000 donor. And there's a perfect example of focusing on the money and not doing the hard work of identifying passions and interests. I mean, it really is. And we see that all the time, the losses in every organization that we've been with throughout the years. And we've done just hundreds and hundreds of analysis of donor files, large international organizations, small local organizations, and it's all the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. These donors, we know they want to give.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we're not asking, we're not trying to get to know them. But we know from all the work we've been done over the years with major gift officers and their portfolios, the only way they're really going to receive what we would call a transformational gift, so a 6 or 7 figure gift, is to know and understand the donor's passion and interest and matching that up with something that they're going to see an impact with your mission. And so why don't you just, maybe we should just define what we think is a transformational gift.
Well, I mean, it's something just so outstanding and unique to the organization, because a transformational gift for a smaller organization, let's say that has $1 million budget versus one that has a $100 million budget, and those are different numbers. But it's truly a gift that surpasses probably anything that the organization has received, and is in the 6 and 7 figure amount, high 6 and 7 amounts.
Yeah.
And it's not unheard of for a smaller organization to actually get those kind of gifts. We had a situation last month, and I think I was telling you about this, where a very wealthy donor in some southern state had been giving about $400,000 a year to this organization, and once the passion and interest was identified, and then there was a vision attached to that passion and interest, like, okay, here's what we could actually do.
Yeah.
The gift then rose, the ask then rose, and the gift that they agreed to was $3 million a year for 3 years.
Wow.
And why? Well, first of all, the donor could actually do it. They had the capacity to do it. And secondly, there was a match between the what the organization was doing and what the donor wanted to do on the planet.
Yeah.
And we see this happening all the time. So I think the definition of a transformational gift depends on your own. I mean, for you, if you're listening to this now, is what amount of money is your budget? What's the budget?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a smaller organization, it's going to be, let's say it's $1 million organization. Like if you got a $500,000 gift, that would be transformational.
Yeah.
But it depends on the size of the organization.
Yeah. And then I would probably go and add to this that not only will it transform the organization, but it will transform the donor too, right? I mean, that's part of
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's part of the whole transformational gift. It works both ways, that it definitely will transform the organization, but it will also transform the life or the lives of the donor.
Well, I was actually meeting. I went to a donor conference and was kind of rubbing shoulders with some of the high capacity, high net worth donors of that organization.
Yeah,
and I could just tell by the conversation. I remember one couple where I was just talking with them, and you could see that they just have this energy about doing this and that, X and Y with the organization. And I was thinking after that evening, like I said to myself, well, has anybody asked them for a significant gift? Do they have a plan for X and Y? And have they? Because it would be such a gift to them to be able to fulfill their interests and passions through the organization. And that's also another thing, Jeff, that's sometimes a problem is that the organization itself doesn't have a big enough vision. So they ask low, they think low. Yeah. Wow, it makes such a difference.
So how do you do this? How do you find out the interest and passion? What's a strategy? What are some ways that we have seen major gift officers are really good at this? Do it.
Well, first of all, we've as you know, we've always encouraged MGOs and major gift officers to be curious, to always be curious and be politely curious. I mean, not obnoxiously curious, and to be asking like, so Ann, tell me why is it you give to our organization? Mm-hmm. Well, I just love what you do, and then usually people give up right at that point. Well, that's great, and instead of saying, well, but why do you love what we do? Is there? And then you might trot out the 6 major categories of program.
Yeah.
Which one of these attracts you the most? And here's what always happens if you keep being curious and keep digging in a very careful way. What'll come out is that, well, this is what they're interested in.
Yeah.
I'm interested in abuse causes. Why? Then you ask the why question. Why is it you're interested in abuse causes? Because I was abused as a child. Or veterans causes. Well, because I served in the armed forces.
Yeah.
Or cancer causes, because a family member died from cancer. I remember the story, and we've told it so many times, of the father who lost a son to drug addiction. Mm-hmm. What was a driver for him? What was a passion? Drug rehab.
Yeah.
And he was basically trying to give him, as a father, redeem the situation with some other young person. I mean, so we have to understand that there's a reason why people have passions.
It's amazing to me how often we don't go to that level. We might say, well, what do you care about what do you like about our organization? And they name off a bunch of things, and then that's it. And we never, and they don't go further to find out why they have those passion and interests, and they lose so much to be able to cultivate and steward that donor by not asking that question.
I know. And I've said to folks when we're in training sessions and things like that, Jeff, we both do this, but it's basically, okay, just think of yourself for a second. Forget the donor, yourself.
Yeah.
And I often ask the question, what do you care about, you personally? And we have a discussion. And in fact, I would suggest that you even take this home with you as you're listening to this podcast. It's like, ask a bunch of, get a bunch of your people in a room and go around and say, so what are you interested in? It might not be the cause of the organization, it might be something else, but just practice. Like, what are you interested in? Well, I'm interested in this. Why are you interested in it? Well, and then you'll uncover I've been in some of these sessions where people are talking where it is very, very emotional. Like for instance, Jeff, that conference we were at, and we were talking about homelessness.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about that, because that there's a why right behind that driver.
We're talking about this, and I don't know, there was something about one of the participants in the session that I just asked, based upon her answers to some of the questions we were asking.
Well, she had a lot of energy about homelessness.
She did.
I mean, a lot of energy.
And I said, is it possible that at one point you were homeless yourself? And that just opened a floodgate of emotion and, yes. And this is why I'm passionate about it today and why I don't want anyone else homeless. And this is why I work as an advocate. And we would have never gotten that had we not asked the question,
And the funny thing was that I remember that woman because she was all put together, very sophisticated looking. Everything was cool. She looked like a very successful. She was a successful person.
Yeah.
And her life had turned around. But boy, when you asked that question and we got into it, and we discovered what the driver of the passion was, she actually just lived out of her car.
Yeah.
And the emotions that came out in that meeting, tears were streaming down my face. I remember that. It was just hard to stay composed.
It was. And, the thing is, the other thing, you have, let's say in your caseload, you have 150 people. That means you have 150 different passion and interests. Everyone's unique. Like I go back to, when Notre Dame was on fire. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And you just watched the whole church, not the whole church, but a lot of it collapse. And there was just an immediate outpour from donors that wanted to give to rebuild the thing. And then there was this backlash from people like, well, wait a minute, there's other people that are dying from hunger. There's, the ocean is full of waste. We need to clean that up. Those are more important than this. There's other churches that could use that money. And they're probably right if you look at the whole hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But the point is that everyone has their own passion and interests. And you shouldn't decry someone's passion and interests because they're not yours.
Make a judgment.
And they might not be yours. But
and you might think yours are more important than theirs, but that's not very honoring.
Yeah. And who knows what was motivating people to give so much to rebuild the church. Maybe there were spiritual reasons. Maybe they just love architecture and they didn't want, they wanted to rebuild or they love art. And so that was, or beauty. And so that was a driver for them. But whatever that is, everyone's unique. And that's the important thing. And not to just, I got 150 donors and 50 of these all love this, 50 of them love that. That's an easy way to get around it.
It really is. And we often hear that. They just love our organization, Richard. They just and you just stay with that. And it is true that older donors have basically given because, they have been giving for the last 15, 20 years, and they just love the organization.
Right.
But the other thing is basically that they have underneath that a reason why they give, and you kind of dig for it and figure it out.
Yeah. Now you developed this really cool little spreadsheet matrix about passion and interests and drivers and all that. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I have as an example, here's a person, and so it's a woman or a CFO, or a man or another young man or young adult or teenage girl, and I basically said this is the driver behind the passion and interest, and I went through some of that before, but basically, if there's a woman and she's very interested in music, why? Because she never had a chance to learn an instrument.
Yeah.
And as I talked earlier too, is that someone's interested in animal welfare. Well, you dig into it and you figure out, a family member of theirs was unkind to animals. And so
they're making up for it.
They're making up for it.
Yeah.
Or someone very interested in outdoors and conservation. Well, they grew up in the city with little green space. And so they just develop a lot. So
yeah, I love that.
The whole point is you have got to be curious, because it'll make a tremendous difference. It'll equip you to actually serve the donor better.
So just to picture this, you've got donor and then their passion and interest, and then the driver to the passion and interest.
Behind it, exactly.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And that would be a great way for every major gift officer to start thinking about their donors so that they could really put together some incredible, inspiring offers for them.
Exactly. You identify the passion and interests, and then you don't just stop being curious. You go backwards, and you figure out, well, what's the driver? And that may take several meetings because it could be a touchy subject.
I got this really cool story about really trying to figure out passion and interests and the results that come from that and why it's so powerful to people when you understand what they are. So this has nothing to do with fundraising, but it was a great article I read last week about this guy. His name is Greg Popovich. He is the head coach for the San Antonio Spurs, and he is the most winning coach of anyone in the last 20 years. And one of the reasons is because he is a real big team builder. And when they're not playing and they're on the road, he takes his entire team to really good restaurants and helps them understand good food and good wine. Okay. So his whole background over the years, he's developed just an incredible understanding and knowledge and passion for wine. So much so that when he goes into a new city, when their team is on the road, he'll call up like a week ahead of time and he'll say, I'm bringing the whole team. Be ready for us.
And bringing them to what?
Bringing them to the restaurant, bringing the team to a restaurant so they can have a meal together. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in this one story that he told, he calls us, they're in Sacramento. And he calls one of his favorite restaurants there and says, next week, I'm bringing the team. Be ready for us. We'll be there at a certain amount of time. And in fact, it's funny because he does all of his own reservations himself. Anyway, so the sommelier there knows that Greg Popovich loves wine. He's passionate about wine. Okay. So that's what he knows. But he wanted to take it to another level. So what he did was he knew that he was coming in a week. What he did was he read everything he could about Greg Popovich's wine favorites. He found articles about it. He inquired from friends, and he got a full list of all of his favorite wines by doing all this research.
Nice.
Then he had to call up all of his wine friends to see if they had this wine in stock. So he was calling all over the U.S. just to get these bottles in particular of wine.
Wow.
Then he had to write up a whole new wine list just for that night. So here is the scene. Greg Popovich has the whole team, big table. They're all sitting around and he's looking at the wine list and he says, hey, someone call the sommelier in. And he's kind of sounding gruff. And the sommelier comes in. He's like, how did you know that these are all of my favorite wines?
Mm-hmm.
And so the sommelier said, well, here's what I did. And he looked, and Greg Popovich was so impressed that he just went on and on to his team about what an incredible thing that this sommelier just did. Just so that they could enjoy these wines. And so then Greg Popovich was there talking about every one of these wines to his team and why they were important and which wine he thought certain team members would like and why. And the experience for Greg and the sommelier was incredible that night because the sommelier had done all this research to find out not only just passionate about wine, but which wines and why it was important to him. And so at the end of the night, Popovich gives them a $10,000 tip.
Whoa.
Just because of this. And he says to the guy, look, you're in Sacramento, but you need to be in San Francisco. And it actually changed the arc of his career as a sommelier. And now he's in San Francisco just because of this one interaction with Greg Popovich, the coach of the Spurs, and wine.
So you make that application to major gifts.
Exactly.
And I can see where you're going with it. I mean, the major gift officer can be like the sommelier. I mean,
exactly.
You're not just doing the transaction thing where they're going to come and they'll buy some wine.
Right.
But he enhanced the experience and personalized it to Greg, which is exactly what we're saying about major gifts.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what this whole passions and interests thing is all about. Which is
that's what we want major gift officers to be doing, right?
Exactly.
And that's what, I mean, the reaction that you're going to get from a donor when you do that kind of work and you talk about their passion and interest and why they would love a certain program because of it and the history of why they love that program or project, it is going to be powerful. And that's where the transformational gifts come from.
Exactly. And it seems it's so basic in terms of understanding that, but we do know, I mean, Jeff, you know that we know it's a lot of hard work, which is why people don't do it. But that's what we're basically talking about on this podcast is passions and interests of your caseload or portfolio donors is one of the most important strategic things that you need to be pursuing and developing and figuring out in order to be successful in your job.
Exactly. And then once you know those passion and interests, one of the things that's great for you to do as a major gift officer is actually taking that donor to the scene of the need. And so we're offering today as a free resource for you, a white paper called Transporting Your Donors to the Scene. And I know, Richard, you're passionate about this.
Oh, I really am.
You know, if you understand their passion and interests, you want to take that donor to the need because you know they'll be broken by it.
Well, and the thing is the major gift officer should also go to the scene. So let's say that Mark, the donor, is interested in, and let's say you deal with drug rehab, and he's and so you yourself need to go and experience what is the narrative, what is the story of a person in drug rehab, so that you yourself feel it, and then you take the donor there, and he or she experiences it. That's where all the very interesting things start to happen as it relates to major gifts. Yeah.
So you can go to veritasgroup.com. Go to our download tab and you can get this free white paper, Transporting Your Donors to the Scene. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it's been a fun topic.
It was really fun. And we will catch you again very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Nothing But Major Gifts podcast from Veritas Group. Richard and Jeff also write an ongoing blog that you can subscribe to for free at veritasgroup.com. Please join us again next time.